Hi, my name is David Rippy. I am a certified hypnotherapist where I take clients into a deep hypnotic state where they can share details of a previous life. This is my chapter titled A Love That Couldn't Be in my book, The Immortal Soul. Enjoy.
A Love That Couldn't Be. This reading was conducted with a female subject in her mid-30s. The subject recounts another life she had that took place over 150 years ago. As we were to learn, it was with the same man who is her ex-husband in this life, referred to as Eric. David, hypnotic induction ends okay, feeling so relaxed. So relaxed. And in your mind's eye, I want you to picture another time, another place, when you were a different person, but you know it was you. Before the life as now, the life of the person before you became dash. And I want you to visualize it in your mind, and you can tell me what you see. Subject, long pause, very softly, Eric. Eric was here. David, say that again. What do you see? Subject, Eric. David, you see Eric? Is that what you said? Subject, yes. David, and you see Eric because why? Subject, whispered, he's here. He's here at the house. David, he's at the house. And why did you see this house? Do you know why? Subject, no. David, you don't know why? Subject, he lives here. David, okay, he lives there. Subject, he doesn't look. He looks different. David, he looks different now? But you know it's him? Subject, yes. David, so you're picturing a house. Do you live with Eric? Subject, no. David, no? But you think it's his house? How old does the house look? Subject, it's. David, does it look very old? Subject, it doesn't have electricity. David, say that again. Subject, it doesn't have power. There's no power. David, oh, there's no power in the house. So, it's a pretty old house then. It's pretty far back. Does it feel about the 1800s? Subject, yes. David, does it look kind of like a cabin? Subject, kind of. David, now that you know it's Eric, what does he look like? Subject, he's tall. David, he's taller than he is now? Subject, he's very tall. Taller than he is now. David, do you know what state you're in? Or where this house is located? Do you know where? Subject, no. In a desert. David, say that again. Subject, it's like a desert. David, the desert? And why are you there? Do you live in the area too, or where are you from? Subject, whispered, I don't know. David, okay, but you see a house somewhere out in the desert? Do you see cactus and sand? Subject, it's bare. David, it's just bare? Subject, yes. David, now, do you know what Eric does for a living in that life? Subject, no. David, but you know yourself. What do you do for a living? Do you remember? Subject, softly, I don't know. David, you're not sure. Subject, there's children. David, you take care of children? Subject, there's children. David, you have children? Subject, yes. David, how many children do you have? Subject, mumbled, 8. David, how many? Subject, 8. David, you have 8 children. And they were all yours? Subject, yes. David, what's your husband's name? Subject, I don't know. He's dead. David, but you have 8 children. And do you see your husband in your mind? What does he look like? Subject, soft sounds like crying. David, and remember, we're just observing. So don't get caught up in that life emotionally. Can you do that for me? Subject, yes. David, so, what does your husband look like in this life? Subject, he has a beard. David, he has a beard. What color is his beard? Subject, gray. David, a gray beard. And what do you look like? Subject, I'm short. David, you're short, and what color is your hair? Subject, black. David, you have black hair. Do you consider yourself pretty, or do other people think you're pretty? Subject, yes. David, but you don't look like you do now, is that correct? Subject, no, I don't. David, and you had 8 children. Now what did your husband do for a living? Subject, farmer. David, did you grow a lot of different crops? Did you help some in the fields, or did he have people help him? Subject, I didn't. I didn't like the cow. David, you didn't like the cow? Was he mean? Subject, I just didn't like it. David, you just didn't like the cow? Subject, no. David, do you remember the cow's name? Subject, no. David, and why didn't you like the cow? Subject, I don't know. David, so when you look around in your mind's eye, do you see the children running around? Subject, yes. David, and give me some names of the children. Do you remember any of them? Subject, long pause, incomprehensible mumbling, Matthew. David, okay, and who else? Subject, I don't know. David, now as you're sitting there looking at all the children, I want you to go into the future with me. I want you to go farther into that life. Go 10 years into the future in that life, and I want you to picture a big event that took place in your life, that you remember that meant something to you in that life. Do you see anything? Subject, no. David, how long did you live in that life? Do you remember? Subject, not long. I died. David, you died? Say that again. Subject, I died. David, okay, now let's just observe that life. I don't want you to get emotionally involved. Let's just observe it. Nice and relaxed. Just observing that life and death. Do you know what you died from? Subject, long pause. David, so you don't know? Subject, incomprehensible mumble. David, what? What was it? Subject, something my heart, my chest. David, something with your heart? Subject, yes. David, do you think it was a heart attack? Subject, no. David, something else? Subject, somebody hurt me. David, somebody what? Subject, hurt me. David, hurt you? Subject, yes. Quick, anxious breathing. David, now don't get emotionally involved. We're just looking at the life. So, I want you to step back. I'm here with you. I'm here with you, observing that life with you. So, you're safe. You have that bubble of protection around you too. Don't forget that. So they hurt you, and it hurt your heart and killed you? Subject, yes. David, was it somebody you knew or was it a stranger? Subject, somebody. David, somebody what? Subject, somebody I knew. David, somebody you knew? Subject, it was Eric. David, so you think it might have been Eric that did it? Subject, mumbled, it was his wife. David, and why would Eric do that? Did you ever know why? Subject, long pause. David, do you know why he would do that? Subject, it was his wife. David, his what? Subject, his wife. David, oh, his wife, told him to kill you? Subject, yes. David, and why did she want you dead? Were you having an affair? Subject, no. David, so why would she want to kill you? Did she not like you? Subject, barely audible whisper, we loved each other. David, what? Subject, we loved each other. David, you loved each other? Subject, yes. David, in that life? Subject, yes. David, and what else can you tell me? Subject, it's different. David, say that again. Subject, it's different. David, it was different. Even though you were both married or you were before your husband died, you had a love at the time that was Eric, is that true? Subject, yes. David, so if Eric was in love, why did he kill you? Subject, mumbled, love at first sight. David, what? Subject, love at first sight. David, in that life? Subject, yes. David, well, here's what we want to do now. As we look at that life, how did he? Subject, he stabbed me. Quick, upset breathing. David, with emphasis, remember we're just observing. We're just observing. Now, right at the moment of death as you see yourself, and we're just observing, I want you to tell me when you fell on the floor, right at the moment of death, did you see yourself standing outside of your body? What do you remember? Subject, mumbled, looking at my body on the ground. David, you saw your body on the ground? Subject, yes. David, and then how long did you stay there? Did somebody come to get you to help you? Subject, Eric. He fell to the ground and cried. David, he cried? So, you watched him cry over your body? Subject, I wanted him not to cry. David, you didn't want him to cry. Subject, no. David, and you couldn't stop him though, could you? Subject, no. David, because you knew at that moment. Subject, he didn't have a choice. David, you felt he didn't really have a choice, and you forgave him for taking your life while you're standing there, I guess, is that correct? Subject, I loved him. David, because you loved him, right? Subject, yes. David, okay, now I want you to do this. I want you to look at that scene, but I want you to go somewhere else soon. How long did you stay? Subject, hours. David, you stayed there hours? Subject, it felt like hours. I just want him to stop crying. David, did he ever get caught for killing you? Subject, I don't know. David, you don't remember? Well, let me ask you this. After that happened and you're lying there, and you're watching him while you're standing outside of your body, watching him cry. You stayed in the scene for hours. I'm going to go past the hours that you stayed there, and I want you to tell me where you went after that. Where did your spirit go? Subject, someplace. David, say that again. Subject, I don't know. Someplace. I just went there. David, so your soul went to someplace you know. Was it heaven? Subject, it's not really. David, well, what was it like when you got to the other side? What did it look like? Subject, different. David, different than here? Subject, yes. David, can you give me some background and describe it to me a little bit? Subject, mumbled, I'm not ready to be there. David, you what? Subject, I'm not ready to be there. David, you weren't ready to go to heaven, is that right? Subject, no, I'm not. David, did you accept it? Or did it just feel like, I want to go back to where I was instead? Subject, I know it's where I belong. David, it's what? Subject, it's where I belong. David, oh. Subject, I didn't want to be here yet. David, so when you said you belonged, where is that place? Subject, it's where you go. David, okay, was it dark or light? Subject, bright. David, it was light. Subject, yes. David, did you see anybody else there that might have died before you? Was your mother or father there, or were they still alive? Subject, mumbled, there's chatter. David, what? Subject, there's chatter. David, there's chatter? Subject, yes. David, like a lot of voices going off at once? Subject, yes. David, does it seem pretty crowded? Subject, it's breathing too big. And there was room. David, so there's plenty of room? Did you have, what kind of housing arrangements were there? Subject, it was crowded. David, it was what? Subject, crowded. David, now were you traumatized when you went to the other side? Did it take a while for you not to be upset? Subject, I didn't want to be there. David, you wanted to go back to where you were, is that correct? Subject, yes. David, did you miss your kids? Subject, long pause, Madeline. David, who's Madeline? Subject, my daughter. David, did you miss her too? Subject, quiet crying. David, now we're just observing. Don't get emotionally caught up in it. We're just observing. Subject, yes. David, what was your name? Subject, I don't know. David, you don't remember. But you know you had a daughter named Madeline, right? Subject, Margot. Silas. David, Margot? Margot Silas? Subject, Silas. David, Silas? Like Silas. Subject, yes. David, and what was your husband's first name? Subject, Silas. David, oh, that was his name? Subject, yes. David, do you remember your last name? Subject, no. David, okay, so it was Margot and Silas. And you said you had 8 children, is that correct? Subject, yes. David, and he was a farmer and you were a housewife and kept the place up, I guess? Subject, taught the children. David, okay, taught the children. Subject, I taught them how to keep the farm. David, say that again. Subject, I taught them how to keep up the farm. David, did you have a well? Subject, yes. David, and what did you grow on that farm? Do you remember? Subject, corn. David, mostly corn? Subject, and cabbage. There's buffalo. They're not. David, there's buffalo? Subject, there's buffalo. David, that must have been neat to see. Were they fun to watch? Subject, whispered, they're big. David, big herds of them? Subject, yes. David, now what state do you think you were living in? Subject, I don't know. David, you don't remember? Let me ask you this. That's a very interesting life, though tragic. And as we go forward, let me ask a few more questions. When you went back to heaven, where you went after death, I want you to sit there and look around. You said you can hear chatter. Who came and met you when you got there? Do you remember? Subject, yes. David, and who was it? Subject, the greeter. David, the greeter. Were they one of your spirit guides, or how did you know them? Subject, no. David, oh, you don't know? Subject, no, they're taking me. David, they're taking you? Subject, yes. David, and where are they taking you to? Subject, to talk. David, to what? Subject, to talk about that life. David, so they want to talk to you about that life you had? Pause, waiting for response. Is that correct? Subject, whispered yes. David, were they nice and loving? Subject, yes. David, was it a council talking about your life? Subject, yes. David, as you're sitting in the council room talking to your council, what color is your soul? What colors do you give off? Subject, teal. David, or greenish blue, I guess, right? Subject, it's green with blue. David, green and blue. So it's a pretty color, isn't it? Subject, yes. David, that's neat. And what are some of the council members' colors? What colors are their souls? Subject, purple. David, purple. Any gold or just all purple? Subject, yes, there's gold. David, there was some gold in there too. Subject, yes. David, do you see Jesus or anyone there? Subject, no. David, do you see any archangels? Subject, no. David, okay, but you see your council, and a lot of them have purple souls. Is that correct? Subject, yes. They're talking about me, but not to me. David, say that again. Subject, they're talking about me, but not to me. David, oh, they're talking about you. Can you hear them in your mind telepathically? Subject, no, I'm observing. David, oh, you're observing. Did they have anything resembling holographic screens to show you of your life? Subject: No. David: But you know they're talking, correct? Subject: Yes. David: And they're going over the life you just had as Margot? Subject: Yes. David: What do they think of that life? Did they have any issues with part of that life? What would you say to that? Subject: Long pause, yes. David: Tell me about it. Subject: Pause: I don't know. David: Okay, they weren't mad or upset by you having an affair with Eric? Subject: I didn't have an affair. David: Oh, you didn't? Subject: I just loved him. David: So you loved him and he loved you, but you never had an affair? Subject: No. David: So you saw each other and that was it? Love at first sight, but you guys never kissed or anything? Subject: Never. David: Never? How did the wife know about you then? Subject: Because, pause, they stayed with us. David: Say that again. Subject: They stayed on our farm. David: Oh, so Eric and his wife stayed on your farm too, right? Subject: Yes. David: But the wife thought you were having an affair. Is that correct? Subject: No. David: She did not feel you were having an affair, but she still wanted him to kill you. Subject: Sounds of crying. David: You're just observing, don't get caught up in it. We're just observing the life together. But you feel. What did you learn in that life that meant a lot to you? What did you learn? Was there anything in particular? Subject: Patience. David: Say that again. Subject: Patience. David: Patience. You learned patience in that life? Good. Any other lessons that you learned? Subject: Patience with my daughter. David: Patience with your daughter. Subject: Patience with my daughter, Madeline. David: Okay. Well, it was a quick and tragic life. You saw some cool buffalo. You had a lot of children. Do you see your own funeral? Subject: No. David: Can't see it. Let's try counting down a little bit. Feeling so relaxed. And as we count down, I want you to remember as you leave that life, just leaving that life behind. And as we count down, I want you to see if there are other things you can tell me. As you leave that life and you're now back in your bubble, feeling so relaxed. And I want you to look in your mind's eye. Do you feel any angels around you on the other side? Subject: Yes. David: Okay, and what angels come to you? Do you know their names? Subject: Very softly, Philomena. David: Helena. Subject: Philomena. David: Oh, Philomena, okay. Does she help you? Subject: Yes. David: Does she protect you and talk to you? Subject: She's my greeter. David: She's your greeter? Subject: Yes. David: What color is her soul? What kind of light does she put off? Subject: Whispered purple. David: She's purple too. Is she a pretty purple? Subject: Barely audible, yes. David: Does she have a lot of energy? Subject: Barely audible, yes. David: Do you feel safer when you're around her? Subject: Barely audible, yes. David: Could she come in the room with us now while we're here? Could you ask her to come here? Subject: No. David: So you don't think she'll come talk to us? Subject: No. David: Okay, but that's your greeter that greeted you, right? In many regressions, it is not always possible to have a subject's spirit guides or counsel offer advice for the subject concerning the life they are currently living. Though they realize I'm trying to help the subject move forward in their life, there are times when they feel certain information should not be shared, or the subject is not yet ready to receive. I decided to try harder to see if we could get her greeter to help the subject with things she needed to work on in this life. Subject: Yes. David: And you have dealt with her in other lives too, I bet. She's been with you a long time? Subject: Yes. David: So she knows you pretty well, doesn't she? Subject: Yes. David: Okay. So if we talk to Philomena, can we? well, that's nice that you have such a beautiful greeter, that's special. Subject, breathing as though asleep. David, what does Philomena say about this life you're in as now? Subject, breathing as though asleep. David, what does Philomena think should be working on? What part of the soul contract that you signed should you work on? What are some things you need to learn in this life? Subject, perseverance. David, say that again. Subject, perseverance. David, perseverance. So, you're working on that in this life, is that right? Subject, yes. David, is there anything else in this life you're working on? Subject, breathing deeply as though asleep. David, no? But definitely perseverance, right? Subject, yes. Staying true. David, okay, staying true. And what else? Subject, breathing deeply. David, those are good lessons. Are there any other ones? Subject, breathing deeply. David, well, I think we covered a lot of ground today, don't you? So, as we leave this session, I want you to stay relaxed and remember in your mind the things you've learned that you need to work on. You're feeling more relaxed. You're feeling your heart rate slow down. And you're feeling yourself coming back as we count from 0 up to 5. Before the session, the client had mentioned she felt very anxious and stressed. She shared that her monitoring bracelet had showed her heart rate over 127 beats per minute on average over the previous several hours. Her normal rate was around 55 to 60 beats per minute. You're going to feel yourself becoming more and more awake, feeling you are coming back, feeling yourself waking up, feeling your heart rate steady to its normal rhythm, allowing yourself to wake up. As we count from 1 to 2, feeling yourself coming up more and more, coming back, feeling you are coming back to today. As we count from 2 to 3, you're feeling yourself coming more awake, but still feeling so relaxed, feeling so much better inside, feeling all this love and happiness in your heart, feeling all the stress gone and feeling your confidence go higher and higher as I count from 3 to 4, feeling so good, so relaxed. Now you'll be able to sleep tonight. All those things that occupy your mind and make you anxious and stressed, going forward, you will put them outside of you. You will keep them outside of you and shut the doors you create in your mind and lock it. Don't take them to bed with you so when you wake up you don't think about them. You just leave them away from you behind locked doors. When you have to deal with them, you open the doors and deal with them, then afterward put them back behind the closed doors and lock it. That's where you're going to keep those, not inside you anymore. You're going to keep those at a distance, locked away and outside of you. This will bring your stress and anxiety down immensely. It will also help you with your stomach issues caused by this turmoil you're experiencing in your personal life. You feel yourself waking up more, starting to stretch out a little bit, feeling so relaxed. As we count from 4 to 5, stretching more and more, growing more and more awake. Subject awake and stretching. Subject, glancing at monitoring bracelet, that's amazing. David, what is? Subject, showing me bracelet, my heart rate was 57 during the session and still is. David, good stuff. Listen to this recording and take Philomena's advice to heart and lock those worries outside of you. Should help to keep your blood pressure, heart rate and anxiety down.